Today, we are diving into a topic that influences nearly every aspect of our lives, money. More specifically, the role of family in shaping our attitudes towards money. From the way we save and spend to how we handle financial stress, our family plays a huge role in shaping our beliefs about money. Whether it's lessons passed down from our parents, experiences from childhood, or the financial habits we're now instilling in our own kids. Money is more than just dollars and cents. It's about values, priorities, and even emotions. As a big family, we've had to be intentional about how we approach money, teaching our kids financial responsibility while balancing wants, needs, and unexpected expenses. In this episode, we will share our upbringing influenced our own financial mindset, the money lessons we want our kids to learn, and how we navigate finances as a family. So grab a cup of coffee and join us as we talk about money, family, and the lessons that last a lifetime. Let's get started.
Well, let's get started. I'm the husband. She's letting me come in on this one today. How are you?
Good.
Well, I say we do it my way and we change things up a little bit. Oh, yeah. We're talking about kids and money. What are you laughing at?
I'm laughing at you.
Why? It's got to be fun. We're talking about money.
Money's
we're talking
crazy.
About making money. We're talking about spending money. We're talking about saving money.
Well, you don't have a problem spending it.
No, you're the one that doesn't have a problem spending it.
No.
You can literally go ask our children, and they'll tell you that Dad's the saver.
No, not even close.
No, today we got to do a little bit something more fun, if you know what I'm saying, once in a while. And money is one of those things that you can teach your kids. You can have a bunch of fun doing it. But there's always the hard lessons you got to learn. Like, how about this? Do you think that just because your kid does chores, that they should get money for every kind of chores they do?
No. It doesn't teach them anything.
Well, exactly. But then there's some things that they do make money on.
Yes.
Okay, so it's a delicate balance. Out of all of our kids, out of all 13, who do you think is the best with money?
Probably Tristan.
Yeah, Tristan is very good. Adam is also very good. Colin is also very good. As a matter of fact, we don't have any kids that are just bad with money, except for...
The little ones are pretty bad with money.
Yeah, maybe our very, very little ones. But, you know, where's the responsibility in money under 8 years old?
Yeah.
You know, hey, I worked for that. I want that doll. I'm going to get it.
That's
right.
That's the truth.
Well, let's get this going. Okay, that's enough of that. But hey, sometimes you got to have a little bit of fun, right?
Yeah.
You know, I think when it comes to kids, number one thing is you got to teach them money is not the love of money. Like you don't want money to have money, because money is completely worthless unless you use it as a tool, right?
Yeah.
Give them an example of having money but nothing to spend it on.
I would have to say, well, there's always stuff to spend it on. It's just wants versus needs.
And that is my wife showing her true colors about saving money. You see, if you ask me, there's not always something to spend it on.
Wait, I'd rather save money and go on a vacation with the family than just go out and buy stuff that I don't need.
Well, I agree with that. But, we're talking about kids. I taught my kids a long time ago, because I used to be the guy that would go out and I wanted tools. So I wouldn't save up to get the tools that I wanted. I'd save up enough to get a tool that was kind of like I wanted, but I could get it quicker, like instant gratification.
Yeah. Like a lot of times he would just get something that he wanted.
Not exactly what I wanted. Like I would settle for a Harbor Freight tool versus a Milwaukee.
Yeah, but they're still as good, I would say.
And see, I would say they're not. But, that's the good thing about me being right and the good thing about you being wrong.
No, I like to buy where we might save a little money, and he likes to buy the expensive stuff.
Yeah, I wouldn't say expensive. I would say value. There's a value proposition there. And I try to teach the boys this. Excuse me. When you're buying certain items, it's like you should just buy the good one, buy it once and be done with it instead of buying things multiple times. And I've shown the kids that multiple times when it comes to tools or things like that. And then like the girls, like how many dolls, if you're not careful, how many dolls can your child end up with after 3 years?
Wow, we have a lot.
Exactly. So, but how many dolls do they actually play with?
Probably 5 or 6.
Right, that's it. They have 5 or 6, and the rest just sit in the toy box and look unhappy because they're not being played with.
That's true.
It's true. So you got to teach your kids that money is a tool. And you really should, before wasting money, you really should know what you want. And then it's very simple. Work really hard and just go get it.
Yes. We've always, from the time our kids were able to know, how money, like how to save and how to spend, they've known how to do that. And we've always instilled, like, you got to save if you want this, or if you need something for your vehicle, you better have the money to spend it on. Right.
And I think it comes from, from our parents. I think that a lot of it is learned behavior. I think you can nickel dime yourself. Like if you stop at the gas station, every time you go in the gas station, you're buying this or you're buying that, or, like 2-3 sodas. You can literally go through, $300-400 a month just stopping at the gas station and buying extra crap every month.
I would have to agree. I mean, growing up, my family, my mom and dad worked 24/7 and we were always broke. So I've learned that save as much as you can because you never know when something's going to happen and you're going to need that money.
Right. So I think there's some foundational principles like know what you want, don't buy garbage, and never, ever go spend money on instant gratification. Instead of saving today, I'm going to buy that candy bar because I want that instant gratification today.
Yeah. Our kids are very good about not spending like that.
Right. All the kids, I taught that you needed to have it's not what I called it, but an emergency fund.
Yeah, it's the oh shit fund.
Yeah, it's the oh shit fund. That's what I always told the kids, especially as they get older in their teenage years. You're going to have problems. At some point, you're going to have problems.
Yes, and it's almost like our kids have seen what we struggled with. So they've learned that, mom and dad struggled and they saved and they got what they needed. And I see them doing the same thing.
Yeah, so do I. I mean, it's one of those things like sometimes you're going to go through Murphy's Law. You can be the hardest worker. You can do all the right things, but at some point, something is going to go wrong. So you have to have a fund. You have to save for that fund. I've truly always believed in 10% of everything you earn, you just put away. Another 10% of that goes into the oh shit fund. And you never touch. The first 10%, you act like it's not even there. So you have a savings. So as you get older, you're not depending on anybody, including Social Security, to have a retirement. That just gets put away, invested. It can come in handy later if you want to reinvest it into like a business you have or something like that. But I think you got to set the base like, okay, for every dollar you make, 10 cents of it goes here, 10 cents if it goes there. The other 80 cents you do with what you want.
Yeah, it's like I've done a podcast on this in the past, but every time our family takes a trip, something always happens. A car breaks down, we get a broken windshield, we hit something. It always happens, and you always have that money if you need it.
Right. And then, I think something that I've always told my kids is if you borrow money, if you borrow money to somebody, especially if it's family, what's my rule, Maya?
Don't ever expect it back.
Right. It is a
pretend
gift.
Yeah.
Pretend it's a gift. If they happen to give it back to you, well, hallelujah. But if they don't, you gave it as a gift because you were in the financial position to give it. And I try to tell my kids, it's good to have empathy, but it's bad to put yourself in a bad position. So if you can help other people and you want to help other people, help them, but do not expect anything back, because that is a fast way to ruin relationships, especially with money, because money's a weird thing. Money changes people. If they have very little money, it changes people. If they have a whole bunch of money, it changes people. It's usually the middle of the road people that stay the same.
Yes. And I would consider ourselves middle of the road.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's kind of where I want to stay. I mean, we've been way up there and we've been way, way down there. And right in the middle kind of seems like the happy spot.
I don't want all these like fancy cars and all that. I'd rather have an older car and have it bought outright and not have that payment than to go out and buy an $80,000 vehicle that it's not going to be worth $80,000 by the time you're driving it for a couple of years.
Well, I've got a saying that I live by. It's and a friend of mine that passed away used to say it all the time. It was one of his tenets of life. And it was, just because you can doesn't mean you should. And, that really, really shines through when it comes to money. Just because you can go buy a new car, you make enough money and you can skim by, it really doesn't mean that you should. And I try to teach our children that, all of them. They're all pretty good with that. But sometimes that's one of those life lessons. For example, my daughter wanted a Nissan, a really nice, newer Nissan. And I was like, honey, that is an expensive payment. Well, it's only $430, Dad. You remember that?
Yep.
And I was like, honey, you make enough to do it. Financially, you can do it. But there's a difference from being able to can do it to you start not wanting to do it. And where is she at today?
Well, she's in a position where she's made 3 payments ahead.
Right.
Well, when she switched jobs and started college again, she fell down to 1 payment ahead, and she panics at that point. So she starts
well, it's
hustling.
not just that. It's the newness wears off. So you get this buyer's remorse. Like, man, I got to pay $430 a month again. And, we've done the thing where you split up the payments, so more goes on principal, and she's paid ahead. But now she's really learned the value lesson in, what, next time I'm probably going to get a car that fits my needs more than this thing that I just wanted to have.
Yep.
And don't get me wrong, she can make the payments. She's still making the payments. She's still doing all of that. But it's a mind thing about what you want in the moment versus what you want, later on. And here we are, 2.5 years?
Mm-hmm.
2.5 years, she's got the same payment, but the wants that she has now were different than the wants that she had 2.5 years ago. So it's just, as you go, build it up. And the thing is, $430, it doesn't sound like a lot of money, even though it is a lot of money. And everybody goes through this. I can make that payment. And then, there's always too much month at the end of the money.
And then you have the boys who just go and buy old cars outright, fix them up, and tear them up.
Right. And then fix them up again, and then tear them up.
Yep.
It's somewhere in between. I think there's a happy medium. But a lot of this stuff is you want to make sure that when you're teaching your kids about money, they've got the fundamentals and they've got the basics, okay? Basics in investment, basics in how to buy things, basics in setting up a budget, basics in, make sure that if you do checkbooks anymore, that you always have a balanced checkbook, that your banking is always balanced, how to pay things so you can pay less interest, how or why you shouldn't get anything high interest, or if you have a credit card, you never have any more than 30% of the card that's available, and you always pay it off by the end of the month, because if you don't, it has no value. Those things are imperative for your kids to be able to live in today. And the one thing with money is you can't teach your kids like our parents taught us about money, because the financial world today the world that was back then doesn't even exist today.
Yep. And we've always taught our kids, you do whatever you got to do to make money to live. And our kids have done that.
Right. And so we put a big stressor on the content of character of people. And there's a lot of people out there, like, have you ever met the type like, who, they got money? You know, to me, how much money you have has nothing to do with if you're a good person or you're not a good person.
I would have to agree with that. I think that, all of our kids as friends have thought we had money. And I'm like, oh, God, you guys are badly mistaken. With 13 kids, we're kid broke.
Well, you kid broke, yes. But the amount of money you make is, directly dependent on the bills that you have. So when people think that, it's, they're probably right in their situation. In our situation, if you make, 150 grand and you got 13 kids, you're really not doing very good. But if you have a husband and wife living together and they're making 150 grand, and I'm talking like 10 years ago, that to them, they were rolling in the dough.
Yeah.
So it's all about perspective. And, wealth is completely different than having money. I tell the kids all the time that, being truly happy, truly successful, living life in abundance, it literally is not about the money you have. It's about the money, and it's about the knowledge, and it's about the relationships that you've built, and it's about your time management and, your at home and your work life. What do you get to do with that? Are you chasing your dreams? I hope so, because I don't want you just chasing a dollar, because if you're chasing a dollar, you're wasting your life. That's what I think.
Mm-hmm. I think so too.
I feel really lucky. We've been blessed with wonderful kids. And I hope, no parent's perfect. I can tell you things that I've been wrong about, but I can tell you this. You can't tell your kids something and then do the opposite thing. You can't say, well, do as I say, not as I do, because kids learn a lot more from watching you do things than listening to what you say.
Yep, it's the actions.
Right. So, I remember the days when we first started building our family, and it was a hers, mine, and ours type thing. And it was very hard to go anywhere long distances, because at the time, they didn't really have a car that was big enough to haul all of us legally.
Yep. So we were driving 2 cars.
2 cars, or we drove illegally.
Yeah.
I mean, it is what it is. We were lawbreakers, rebels with a cause, and our cause was our kids.
And our game was, don't get pulled over with all the kids misplaced in the car.
Yeah, don't. I mean, don't get me wrong. It wasn't like we were, just trying to break the law or putting our kids in danger or anything like that. That's not what we were doing. But I would say you did it more than me.
I don't know about that. You got pulled over when I was in the hospital with Anna.
I did. And
with the kids out of seats.
I did.
They didn't catch you, though.
Well,
they hid.
I think he saw me. He knew what was up. He knew what was going on. I mean, we had a full-size GMC Yukon XL, okay? 3 in the back, 2 in the middle, 2 up front. And we had, let's see.
There was 2 kids out of seats.
Yeah, 2 kids, and they were sitting in the middle. One was, and then the other one was double buckled. And I had no other choice. You were in the hospital. Our littlest baby was in the hospital. So you do what you got to do to live, and you try to be as safe as you can, and you try to save money, and you try to make as much money as you can to live the happiest life you can. But that's the key, is getting out there, getting off your ass, going out and living life, having fun with your kids, letting them learn by example. And here's the other thing. When you make a mistake as a parent, do not be afraid to share that mistake with your children. Don't try to act like you never made a mistake. Don't try to act like, well, I'm perfect, so I expect you to be perfect, because that puts unrealistic expectations on them. And I think that pain is the best teacher.
Yes.
Especially when it comes to money. When they see you make a mistake or they see you overspend. I'm trying to think of the worst the worst mistake I ever made. Okay, I'll give you an example. We had a guy that worked for us, and it was in our pressure washing company, and I couldn't figure out where all the money was going. We were living down here, and we would send him up every other weekend to do a 2-day wash up in Wisconsin. And he would leave here, and he would go up there, and you'd give him, what, $600-$700 in fuel?
Yep.
Fuel money, just fuel money. And he'd get up there, and now we knew what it cost to go up there, back, wash. He should have been coming back with $300-$400 at that time every turn. But he would come back, and he'd be like, yeah, I had to use $50 of my own money to make it back.
Or he'd get up there and he'd call us and say, can you send me more money? I'm out.
Right, and you transfer money, and I couldn't figure it out because he always had receipts. And we're always like, well, get receipts. You couldn't figure it out either, could you?
No. But we did.
So I'm sitting there, and, this is costing my family big money, and I'm trying to figure out what is going on here. So I called up a couple of the gas stations that this worker stopped at, and I started talking to the one gal, and I'm like, listen, I'm trying to figure out where all my gas money's going. And she goes, well, I'll have my manager call you. So later on in the day, the manager calls me back, and she says, well, you're talking about, and she said his name, and I was like, yeah. And she goes, well, honey, he always just comes in and he prepays and he gets a receipt, and then he goes out to the van and he'll put 50 in and he'll come back in and get 100, 150, whatever. So he was putting $50 in the van, but he was going in and paying $200 for the fuel, and then he would get that receipt. He'd go in, pocket the money, and then give me the receipt for the whole thing. Well, that was a mistake. I should have never allowed that to happen. I should have figured it out quicker. But that's probably the biggest mistake that I've ever had, and that cost us literally thousands because it happened for a long time.
Yes, it did. And then, people don't care about your stuff, so they ruin it.
Right. And that's another thing you should teach your children about money. I think that value is added when you work hard for something. Like you look at our kids' cars, they care about them. They're not kicking the sides of them and doing stupid things with them. Well, I shouldn't say stupid things. I got a son that really likes to drive fast, but they take care of them. They're washed, they're clean, why? Because it was their money that they worked hard for to get that.
Yep. And you know what? When they break them, they fix them.
Absolutely. So, I think at the end of the day, when you teach your kids about money, you start when they're little, have them do little jobs, put money in the bank. My brother-in-law did something really cool one time. My nephew, he wanted this certain rifle. So he's like, well, you want that rifle, son? You're going to have to save for it. So my nephew saves up for it. I don't know, $350, whatever it was. The whole summer mowing lawns. Goes out. He's like, Dad, I got enough money. Take it up to get it. So he says, get in the car. They drive up there. They go to get this rifle. I think it was like a 22, before all the big stuff about, 13-year-olds couldn't have rifles. This was at that time when kids were normal. And they go up there, and he puts his money down on the table, and he points to it. And his dad comes up, and he grabs the money, and he handed the money back to him, and he says, put your money away. I'm buying it. But at least you know what it's like to work for something now. Remember that?
Yep, I do remember that.
And that is
appreciation.
It was appreciation of working your ass off for something and getting exactly what you wanted. And those are the types of lessons that we should be teaching our kids. Make your kids learn and make them value the things that they buy. Because if they can value and cherish the things that they buy because of effort, they're also going to value and cherish their wife. Or if you have a daughter, they're going to value and cherish their husband because they work at things together. And the harder they work and the more effort they put in and the more they think and they save and they sacrifice, the more value that thing has.
Yes.
And that in a nutshell is about money. Like we can get in, maybe we'll do another show one day about exactly how we taught them to save. Or exactly like all of our kids are entrepreneurial minded.
Yeah.
All of them. none of them really have money problems. Our daughter that's going to college has money problems, but money problems in college is an imperative to become a thriving adult.
But she doesn't ask for money. She'll go out, like she donates plasma to get that extra money.
And she works.
Or DoorDash. Yeah.
And she does DoorDash, and she has a regular job.
And she goes to school full time.
And she goes to, yeah. So, and she has scholarships. So, like, she's a busy gal, and she works really hard, and she does what she needs. But again, she's very independent. And that's the thing. When you teach your kids about, being financially responsible, being personally responsible, those things just kind of fall into place because they think that it's their duty to take care of themselves and do those things.
Yes. And they do what they need to do to make ends meet.
So remember, hard work and responsibility and treating people well always lead to good places. So there's nothing wrong with giving your kids jobs, nothing wrong with giving your kids chores. Entrepreneurial activities will always teach them financial independence. And if you really love your children, you want them to be independent people with, finances, hopefully that they don't have to go through all the struggles that you did. But remember, struggles is what makes us who we are.
So why don't you guys get on over to our YouTube channel and subscribe to our YouTube, We Are the Hansons. You can also send us a message on We Are the Hansons Facebook, or you can email us at wearethehansonsshow@gmail.com. We'll see you next time.
Amen, and thank you.